What's going on, everybody? So we are moving into page 2 for this Unit 11, Lesson 6. Looks like there is a majority of you guys still trying to get in right now. So I'll hold up. I think you guys are stuck watching ads. Follow for follow. Why not? What's going on, guys? So I got the front page on from yesterday. So this is everything we did yesterday. We left it there. We are going to be doing something very, very similar today. Except as you guys can see in front of those signs and in front of those cosines, there's numbers today. So we talked about how those numbers change functions in the past. I'm going to show you guys how it changed with sine and cosine. And yeah, I think today's going to be a pretty quick lesson for you guys. Nobody contacted me about calculator issues, so I'm assuming you guys were okay with it yesterday. If you happen to still have calculator issues, make sure to shoot me a message or jump into Zoom tomorrow so I can help you out. That being said, there we go. I followed. All right, so I don't know why Streamlabs is so delayed right now. It says there's only one person viewing, but I can see there's like 10 of you guys in here. Whatever. So, as far as it goes, I'm going to go down to the next page. I'm going to have my calculator out, and I'm going to reset it because I don't trust these iPad calculators at all. I just don't trust it. I'm going to start from scratch, just like we did yesterday. And you guys should notice that there are 4 functions here. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what I want to do is I want to graph all 4 of those on the grid, and I am going to do the calculator like this because it's going to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to let you guys see that the graph that's already here is representing the sine function. So we drew it yesterday, so I just drew it for you guys today. So this right here is sine x. Okay. Sierra, yeah, stop by Zoom tomorrow and I can help you out. So that one is going to be sine x. So what I want to be able to do is graph the other 4 functions. So in order to do so, the first thing on my calculator, because I reset, I'm going to hit second table. And my table starts at 0. I guess this part doesn't really matter because we're going to be changing it to ask anyways. But I always change it so it's 0 and 1. And then I press ask at the bottom of the screen. After I do that, I'm then going to go into y equals, and the first function that I'm typing in is 2 sine x. And then I'm going to go to the table, and I should have a blank table. Yeah, see, I'm sure I could help you out pretty quick with it. So now that I have it typed in, I go to the table. The first thing that I'm going to type in is this -2 pi because that is the first thing that is on our grid. And if I type in -2 pi, I am seeing that my answer is still at 0. So I'm color coding this. I'm doing the blue one first. I'm going to pick a bigger thickness. There we go. So that's going to be my first dot. So now the next thing I'm going to type in, and I know it's kind of hard to read right here, but that says -3 pi over 2. So just remember when you're typing them in on your iPad calculators, and it may be the same for the handheld calculators, we cannot do fractions. So we're just going to type it in as a division sign. So I'm going to type in -3 pi divided by 2, and it says the answer is 2. So I'm going to draw my little dot in up 2 from that spot. So everything I'm doing today, if you didn't see the video yesterday, if you didn't watch the lesson from yesterday, I'm graphing everything with the use of my calculator. Eventually, you guys are going to see a trick and how you don't have to use the calculator at all. You'll be able to do it off the top of your head. But I know it's going to take some time for some of you guys to get there. So now I'm going to go to the next one, and it's going to be at negative pi. So I'm going to do negative pi and press enter. And just remember, when your calculator gets that crazy decimal with the E inside of it, that is really just 0. And this only happens on the handheld calculator. It will not do it. I'm sorry, on the iPad calculator. It won't do it on the handhelds. Wait, where's the division sign? I've been doing alpha y equals. Is it allowing you to do it alpha y equals, Sierra? Like, I can't do alpha y equals on mine because when I click on it, it won't let me type in fractions. So when you go to type it in, you just have to type it in as negative 3 pi and then just hit divided by 2. The iPad calculator will not allow you to do alpha y equals, so you just can't do it. So now I'm going to do the next one. So I have negative pi divided by 2. And then, why is it not going? Come on, calculator. There we go. Negative pi divided by 2. There we go. So again, it says my answer is at negative 2. What do you mean it puts a normal division sign? That I don't know what you mean by that, Sierra. So that's going to be down here at negative 2. And then I'm just going to tell you guys, if you type in 0, the answer is going to be 0. It just does if I were to press division. You're going to have to show me in Zoom. I think it's too hard. It shouldn't change it to a fraction at all. When I'm typing it in, I'm just typing in negative pi. I just hit the division sign 2. If it's showing it as the division symbol, it still means the same thing. It's not changing anything into a fraction for me. But after you guys have those dots, notice I haven't done the positive side yet. So I'm just going to draw this part of the curve. And I just want to show you guys that that curve that I just drew right there is actually going to be exactly the same as the positive side. So because we get to do this on the iPad, what I'm going to do is just use the scissor tool. And I'm going to copy it. So I have the same exact curve, and I'm just going to shift it over. If you want to type in all those positive answers, you can. But I'm telling you guys that this graph will just repeat on the negative and the positive side. It's going to look exactly the same. Yeah, you don't have to, Sierra. I tried doing it yesterday, and then I realized it didn't work. So that's why I just started hitting the division sign, and that's it. So I'm just going to label this. The blue one was sine of, or 2 sine x. Okay. So I'm going to graph one more of these. I'm only going to graph one more, and I think you guys are going to catch on to how you can draw all the rest of the graphs without having to use the calculator. Okay. So I did the blue one. I'm going to do the red one now. And like I said, I think you'll be able to do the rest after I do this red one. So if I go into y equals, the red one is negative 1/2 sine x. So I have that typed in. I'm going to go to table, and you guys are going to probably see the old stuff in here. I don't know if it allows me to delete it. Yeah. So I'm going to delete all those ones off. You actually have to hit the DEL button to delete it. Clear does not work. So if you click on, say if I typed in the number 5 and I was like, oops, I don't want 5 there. I'm going to click on the number 5 and then I'm going to hit the DEL button, which is next to the left arrow key above stat, and then it will delete it off. So that's going to delete off all of the old numbers. We are now going to do the new numbers. We're going to get the new answers. So the next one is at negative 2 pi again. When I type in negative 2 pi, again, it's showing that the answer is 0. So I'm going to put a little dot at that 0. The next part is the negative 3 pi over 2. So I got negative 3 pi divided by 2. And that says the answer is at negative 0.5. So I know we can't see the y-axis here, but just know that negative 0.5 is going to be right about there because it's in between 0 and negative 1. Now I'm going to do the next one. The next one is at negative pi. And my answer comes out to be that crazy scientific notation. And if we ever see scientific notation, that just means it's 0. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to assume that some of you guys are going to see this pattern and you're going to be able to take a guess at what this next number is going to be. If not, I'll still type it in, but try to see if you're seeing this pattern. So the next one I'm going to type in is negative pi divided by 2. And it says that the answer is positive 0.5, which would be right here. And then if you type in 0, the answer is going to be at 0. So again, I'm going to draw in that curve. Just make sure that they're not straight lines. It's always going to be a curve. And again, we only did the negative side, but if you want the positive side, we could just use the scissor tool again. I'm going to try to make sure I'm only copying the left side again. And there we go. Let me erase this part. We don't need that part right there. So what we just did is we graphed the wave on both the negative and positive side. Now, this is an easier question to ask in class when I can actually get the real-time answers from you. But the question I would ask is, hey, what was the pattern? If we did the blue one and it was 2 sine x, and we just did the red one, which is negative 1/2 sine x, what was the pattern that occurred? Now, if you look at that first blue one, it said that the leading coefficient was 2. Well, notice what the largest number was on this graph. The largest number was up here at 2. The smallest number on here was down here at negative 2. And it repeats. It went back up to positive 2. And if I kept going over to the positive side, you'll notice that the smallest number is negative 2 again. So if you have 2 sine x, that just means that your leading coefficient is stretching the range. Perfect. So that is going to be your range. So whatever numbers out front will either stretch or compress the graph. So now if I look at the red one we had negative 1/2. Notice that the graph went straight down to negative 1/2, and then it went up to positive 1/2. Then it went back down to negative 1/2, and it keeps repeating. So eventually, and you guys can always use your calculator when you guys do this, but eventually it's going to follow the same pattern every time. Whatever number is in front of that sine x is going to be that number that it's going to head towards first. So Sierra, again, I'll repeat it, and I'm going to do it for the next one so you guys can see what's coming, what's about to happen. Range is just saying, it's asking you guys to find the largest and smallest y value. So this 2 out front will tell you what the largest y value is, which is at positive 2. But it's also going to tell you the smallest y value, which is down here at negative 2. So when you guys are looking for it, it says explain what happens when we have a leading coefficient. It creates the range by stretching or compressing the function. So it's always going to create the range. So whatever number's out front, it's always going to create the positive and negative version of it. Okay. So I'm going to do the green one, the -3 sine x. I'm just giving time because I know some people follow along just like class and you're probably writing down these notes. But the same thing's going to happen to the green one. So if we notice the pattern, and I set it on the front page of the notes. So let me get rid of the calculator because I'm not going to use the calculator now. So I'm going to go back to the front page real quick, and then I'll scroll back down so you guys can see. Right now we're doing the sine function, and I said the sine function will always start at 0. So when I come down here to this graph, notice that we started at 0 every single time, because sine will always start at 0. And the only time it won't start at 0 is if we start going into transformations, but that's not something we do in Algebra 2. That would be something that you guys would do in Math 12 and Pre-Calc. So I'm starting at 0, and it says that the leading coefficient is -3 this time. So what I'm going to do is when I go to do the -3 pi over 2, I'm going down to -3. So I don't need the calculator at all because it's telling me what the smallest number is. Then the graph is going to go back up to 0. So it tells us the range. So not only is it going to tell us the smallest number, it's telling us the largest number. So not only is it going to be -3, it's also going to be up here at +3. And then again, it's going to come back down to 0. So when I go to draw this graph, again, I'm going to round it off. The sine function looks something like that. Are the colors showing up okay on your guys' end? I just want to make sure because I'm trying to color code this the best I can. In class, it would be a little bit easier to see on the smartboard, but I know sometimes when I stream it, the colors get a little off. They get a little grainy. I'm looking at it on my stream. It doesn't look too bad. And then what I can do is I'm just going to try to copy this green function the best that I can. I might be copying the other colors as well. And I'm just going to paste it on the other side. There we go. Apparently I got a little bit of red right there. Nope, I didn't want all. Oh, am I on partial? That's why. Gone. All right. So I know that can be a little confusing. If you guys do not feel comfortable doing it off the top of your head, you can still type it all into the calculator and it still works that way. But this is like a nice little shortcut, so then you don't have to keep typing it in every single time. All right. So this leading coefficient, when we work with trig functions, it's called something, and it's called the amplitude. So if you ever hear me say the word amplitude, all I'm asking you guys is what is the highest and lowest number on the graph? So if we were to look at that green one, I would say, hey, what's the amplitude? And you guys would just say, hey, it's 3. Because we went up to 3 and we went down 3 to -3. So anytime you're looking for the amplitude, it's really just the absolute value of whatever that leading coefficient is. So I'm not going to put that in. Because I don't want to confuse anybody. It's just whatever the positive number is out front. That's what the amplitude is. So that's all. I'm not even going to do the last one because it's going to be a fraction and it's going to be really, really tiny on our graph. And I don't want to make our graph look all confusing. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, come on, pencil. Did my pencil die? Nope, I froze. I'm going to cross off this last one. We won't draw that one. So now I'm going to show you guys the same thing on the bottom. It's the same exact thing, except instead of doing sine, we're going to be doing cosine. So I already drew the cosine for you guys. And yes, Sierra, so cosine is going to be a little bit different because we're not starting at 0. This time we're going to be starting, if you guys look, the original function, we were starting at 1. So on the front page, I said cosine x starts at 1, but that's only because this original cosine up here has a 1 out front. There is no number in front of cos x. The leading coefficient was 1, so it starts at 1. When you do cosine, whatever the leading number is the number that you're going to start with. So if I were to look at this first one and it says y equals 3 cos x, this is telling us that we're going to start at 3. So sine will always start at 0. Cosine is always going to start at your amplitude. So I can start my graph off at 3. Now, the one cool thing about doing these is you only need to know every other one, because the ones in between are always going to be 0. So if that's a little confusing, I'm just going to kind of go back to the tables that we did yesterday. Notice in our table, we went 1, 0, -1, 0, 1, 0. 0 was the answer on every other one. Same thing happened in sine. Notice we started at 0 and every other answer was always 0. So again, you can find that with the calculator, but I'm trying to show you guys shortcuts so you don't have to keep typing stuff into the calculator, because typing in the calculator can take forever. So because we started at 3, the next one has to be at 0, because we have to follow that pattern. So I could put all the zeros in right now. Every other one is still going to be at 0. So notice I skipped over one line as I'm drawing my graph. So if I started at +3, that means the smallest number is going to be way down here at -3. And then I'm going to alternate. So then it goes to 0, and now I go all the way back up to +3. So I drew the dots in, but I'm going to do it the same way I was just doing the top one. I'm just going to draw the negative side. So I'm going to draw it kind of curvy here. Yep, that's exactly what you do, Sierra. Whatever number's out front is the number that you're going to start at. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it over. So I just drew that first one, the cosine curve. Okay. So I'll do the next one. The next one says it's -4 cos x. So because it's cosine, what we're going to do is we're just going to start at that -4. So this one is start at -4. So I'm going to come down all the way to the bottom and put in my dot, because that's where I'm starting. And then the next one has to be 0, because cosine is at 0 here. So I started all the way down at -4, so that's going to be the smallest number. Now I have to find the largest number, which is just going to be the opposite. So now I'm going all the way up to +4. And then I'm just going to work my way back down. So as you guys can see, now I'm graphing these a lot faster now. If you guys are there, that's great. But I don't expect you guys to be like perfect right away. On the homework, you'll notice that there's questions similar to these. So I'm going to ask you guys to graph them out. If you can do it by hand and you feel comfortable doing it by hand, go for it. But that's why I showed you guys the calculator first yesterday, just in case if anybody needed it to help you out. Okay. I'm just going to do one more and then I'm done for today. The last one I'm going to do with you guys is the 3/2 cos x. Now, this one, because it's a fraction, some of you guys may have trouble trying to graph it. So what I would suggest is changing it to a decimal. So if you were to do 3 divided by 2, That's just 1.5. So in this one, it's telling us to start at 1.5. So if I start at 1.5, that's going to be like right about here. But again, since we're doing cosine, that means the next number has to be 0. And now when I get to the next one at negative pi, I know it's going to be at negative 1.5 because the range is always going to be between negative 1.5 and positive 1.5. So I know that's going to be there. Then I'm back to 0, and then I'm back up to positive 1.5. So I'm hoping you guys kind of feel okay with this. I'm not going too crazy with graphing yet. I'm just doing an introduction with you guys. And then obviously that will repeat on the other side. So you can copy it. You can just keep drawing and alternating. They call these graphs, I said yesterday, they're called waves. And they also said that when you guys do these, it's an oscillating function. So oscillating means that it goes up and then comes back down. Then it goes up and then comes back down. Okay? Yeah, they're not too bad. They're not too bad, guys. My wife learned of a trick at the beginning of the year that helps making graphs for this easier. I never saw the trick before, so I learned it at the beginning of the year, but I forgot it. I'm going to talk to her about it this weekend, and if it is a nice trick for me to show you guys, then I'll teach you next week. If it's too confusing, I'm just going to leave it like this. Tabitha, as far as the homework goes, I was going to pull that up because the front page of this homework, first of all, is just like what we did in today's lesson. It says graph sine x, 3 sine x, negative sine x. So I just want you to graph all of them on here. Same thing about number 2, except they're cosines. So you guys should notice that 1 and 2 are just going to be like the back page of the notes, that is. On the second page, so first of all, number 4 is, I didn't teach you guys period yet. I should have deleted that one off. Period is something that we're going to learn in next week's lesson. But number 3 is just asking you guys to find the range. So think about what I just said in the notes. If the leading number is 7, what would be the highest and lowest number on your graph? And then just remember what parentheses and square brackets mean when you write it out. Remember, parentheses mean open circles and square brackets mean closed circles. So the question is, did we draw any open circles in the notes? So that should give you guys a hint at which ones you can automatically cross off. Okay? And then number 5 is just asking you guys to go backwards, and it wants you to try to figure out which one of them is the correct answer. Is it going to be a cosine or is it going to be a sine? And I will show you guys a trick next week on how you can determine if something's a cosine or sine. I just want to see where you guys are at with it so far. Okay? You can type it into the calculator too to figure out where those answers are matching up if you want to do it that way. Okay? Yes, here, if you want to shoot me an email, or like I said, we can do it tomorrow during Zoom if you want to. But that's all I got for today. This homework is not going to be due until Monday next week. If you want to get a jump start on it, I recommend doing so because as you guys can see, especially the front page, it was very similar to what we did today. So I don't want you guys to forget any of the steps we just did. No lesson tomorrow. I still will be available for Zoom if you guys want to stop by. But I think that's it. Tell all of your mothers, if you still talk to your mothers, you all should still talk to your mothers. Tell all of them Happy Mother's Day. It is also my birthday on Sunday, so remember to wish me a happy birthday. I'm expecting tons of emails from all of you. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, if anybody's mothers are actually watching this. So I hope you guys have a great weekend if I don't see you guys tomorrow, and I will see you on Monday otherwise.